Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me and Robin Brogdon on my YouTube channel, where we're going to be talking about marketing and all sorts of fun things that Robin Brogdon does with her company, Blueprints Veterinary Marketing. And I'm just going to dive right into it with her. So Robin, why don't you tell us about yourself and what you do with your business?
Well, thank you so much, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here. Melissa and I happen to be neighbors, and yet we only see each other at conferences in some other state, which is pretty much how it happens. But I started Blueprints Veterinary Marketing Group 15 years ago after having been an administrator for a multi-site oncology group, and then being the original executive director for City of Angels Veterinary Specialty Center, which at the time was the largest specialty center in the Los Angeles area. But I don't live in LA, and I was commuting 3 to 4 hours a day to build and run City of Angels. So once it was up and running, I decided to open Blueprints Veterinary Marketing Group because marketing is my background. And what I realized and learned throughout my tenure with the oncology group and City of Angels was that specialists and emergency hospitals in particular weren't really taking the time or didn't necessarily have the know-how to develop true and authentic relationships with their primary care practitioners in their area so that they could collaborate in really meaningful ways for the benefit of the patients. So business was certainly being transacted, referrals were being made, but there weren't really a lot of relationships being built in a meaningful way. So I launched Blueprints initially to work with specialty and emergency practices across the country, develop a clear and authentic brand and brand message so that it was going to be much more focused and simpler for them to communicate who they are, how they are different from others in the area that may offer similar services, and give them a better opportunity to develop those relationships and ultimately reach more pets and pet owners. I mean, people like you and I, the end user, we would become aware of and have access to this level of care if we needed it. Now, over time, lots and lots of practices have been purchased by larger corporate groups. And often when a practice is purchased, the corporate entity will take over the marketing. So our market in that regard has reduced in size, but at the same time, we've really expanded our services from specialty and emergency exclusively to select primary care practices who appreciate our process, as well as lots of industry businesses. And we really help them market their service, their product or service to the veterinary community, again, ultimately helping them do a better job of what they do to reach more pets and their people. So the end user is always the pet and the pet owner.
Yeah, it always is for everyone, right? No matter how you get there.
Yep, so true.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
So most people think of us as a traditional marketing agency. And by that, I mean, we do everything kind of from soup to nuts, from starting with the development of the brand concept, the brand message, naming a business, creating a tagline, any of the visual identity elements like logos and brand style guides and fonts and usage, all the way to the strategies of how to reach their respective target audiences, whether it be trade show participation, websites, digital programs, paid ads, search engine optimization, print materials, PR and press releases, article submissions. I mean, it's sort of the kit and caboodle. Whereas in vet med today, there are a lot of what we think of as digital agencies that do just the digital aspects. For us, digital is a component and certainly an important component, but we take kind of a broader 30,000-foot view and then move into very specific strategies to figure out what it is we want to implement to help our client achieve their goals.
That's awesome. I had no idea that you were so branched out in so many different ways. And in my mind, you did one aspect. I had no clue that you did all those things. So,
well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. We are like, a cobbler's kids with no shoes. We are so busy, like our, client practices. we've had a hard time keeping up with our own platforms. I mean, we've been working on a new website for almost a year now, and it's still not live because our clients take precedence. So while our website talks about all the different elements that we provide and all the different services, it needs a refresh, just like so many of our clients. So we understand the nature of overwhelm right now.
Yeah, the crazy busy that we've all
you bet.
The past year and a half. I don't even know. I'm almost getting close to 2 years.
Yeah, almost 2 years, March.
How have you helped hospitals during COVID? Like, what was your help, or what did you see them struggling with? And
that's a really good question, and it has changed over time. You know, when COVID first started shutting things down in March and April of last year, we really were most helpful with helping our practices with messaging to their own internal teams first, messaging to their clients that walk in the door, and messaging to their referring practitioners. So most of our clients have 3 audiences to communicate with, and also helping them find resources to continue to stay on top of changing laws, changing regulations. But it was mostly about communication, because it, you know, if you recall back then, it changed by the week, if not by the day.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to create vehicles for them to be able to share with their own audiences as to where they can continue to get the latest updates, so that they felt like they knew, can I send over a case? Can I not send over a case? Are you open? Are you not open? Are services limited? Are all your services available? Are you staffed? You know, all of that. So that was the initial part. Then, as kind of everybody got into a rhythm of what the limitations were, it's been a lot of messaging about our caseload is significantly impacted, meaning we are overwhelmed with cases. If your pet or patient is not in an urgent or critically life-threatening situation, please help prepare them for either waiting till you open or a 6, 8, 10+ hour wait. And, you know, in some cases, we're still in that for some areas of the country, because so many practices, and I mean emergency practices in particular, have had to reduce hours or shutter altogether because the staff shortage has impacted so many. So we continue to do a lot of messaging around triage level 1, triage level 2, triage level 3, what that means to a pet owner, and helping them streamline, helping our emergency and specialty practices streamline messaging for their clients and referring veterinarians, so they know when they can come in, when they should call, minimize frustration, and help maximize efficiency. So that's been a lot of it in the last year.
I think the communication and minimizing frustration part is definitely really hard. I know several of the specialty hospitals and local emergency hospitals in Southern California have had to close for different periods of time, for different lengths of time. And that puts so much strain on the other emergency specialty hospitals. And it's a constant battle that you're dealing with, because I do work with Orange County Emergency Pet Clinic. And so I'm seeing sort of the aftermath of when one of the specialty practices shuts down, then the overflow to that hospital, which is significant. So I do feel like there's a ton of communication within, you know, even specialty emergency hospitals with each other. So do you help with that at all, or just
in fact, you know, one of our practices, for the first time in their existence, had to close a night here, a night there. It's only happened a couple times so far, but they communicated personally with the 2 other options north of them and the 2 south of them, and communicated with their, you know, colleagues, if you will, at other practices, as well as had us update, you know, their Google My Business, their website, their social media platforms. I mean, there's so many different elements that need to be updated and, you know, brought up to date with today's availability, because you know, you'd hate for a pet and a pet owner to arrive at a facility and not be able to seek care. Now, granted, they're not, if they've been there before, they're not always looking online. They may just go there, and you run that risk anyway. But at least we had signage as well that said, this evening we're unable to receive cases. Hospitalized patients are being tended to. If your pet needs immediate care, here are 2 options to the north and here are 2 options to the south.
Yeah. How did you, I guess, make that communication happen? So do you have access to like the Google My Business for that?
Yeah, for the clients that we handle, all of their search engine optimization, reputation management, and social media, we have access to that already.
Okay,
Other ones that we may not have access to because we are not managing a regular campaign for them. If they called and just wanted guidance, we gave them, here's what you want to do. Here are the steps you want to take to make sure you're updating your business. But most of them were already clients, and they, help. How do we get the message out? And for some of those clients, it was email to pet owners, email to referring vets, faxes to referring vets, all over their social media, update their Google My Business. It was as many touch points as we could, so that, we caught as few off guard as possible.
That's good. I can say one thing, and I'm not going to ask you for your client base, obviously, but one thing I've noticed working with Orange County Emergency Pet Clinic is a lot of the specialty practices in the area forget about the 4, because there's also Crossroads, 4 local emergency only hospitals. They will notify the other specialty practices that they're closing, but they forget to tell Central Orange County Emergency or Animal Urgent Care up in Mission Viejo, or any of the Orange County Emergency Pet Clinics, or even Crossroads. So I don't know if any of them are your clients, those other.
That's a really good point, Melissa. And I think, yeah, I mean, Southern California or elsewhere, if someone's watching from out of the area, you can't forget your standard or traditional overnight weekend ERs, because they still play a vital role in the community. And, many primary care practitioners prefer to refer to the overnight weekend ones because they know that there's going to be direct communication that next morning, and maybe getting that patient back to care for during the day. So yeah, we can't forget about those. That's a really good point.
So I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if you have influence, but I just thought of it now, and I thought I should tell her that. So
I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's a good communication tool. So what have you done outside of those things to help deal with COVID client upsets or whatever?
Yeah, we've done a couple of things, and we know that all across the country, there are more clients that are frustrated and participating in unkind ways more frequently than is the norm. And we all recognize that emergency service is always the one that is tougher to please, because whenever finances are involved and emergencies are involved, it's frightening, and people have guilt if they can't do what is recommended for their pet. And it's very easy in an emotional moment to let some of your good graces go out the window. Now, I'm not making an excuse for those clients, because I'm a huge advocate for the veterinary team. They're really unsung heroes day in and day out, and bless them for being able to take it and then still focus on the patient. But so we've tried to do a number of things to help the pet owner understand the process and the state of affairs, so that we set them up for, if not a positive experience, not a negative one. And really, this has to do with education. Most pet owners, and I still hear this today with people I meet, that the wait was so long, or, whatever it might be, that they don't necessarily know what's happening in vet med with staffing shortages, with, being deemed essential personnel, and therefore, having some limitations, but being open nonstop, and the volume of cases that are coming through the door. Most pet owners to this day, despite the great TV blips and the articles that go out, unless you happen to catch somebody paying attention to that, they don't know. So a lot of what we do is about education. Lots of social media posts, lots of e-blasts and lots of messaging to pet owner clientele of our ER and specialty practices. That's one, simple education. Number two, we did, and you may have seen this in Pulse, the Southern California VMA newsletter recently, an open letter to the community that we helped one of our clients put out that really talked about who we are, what we're doing, what we haven't done, meaning we've never closed, we're continuing to be open, and here's how we need you, meaning they're referring veterinary community, help communicate with your pet owner clients what the reality is and how we can best help them and to kind of lower the volume. Now that open letter was published in a local publication called the Acorn that has 5 or 6 different cities that they publish in, kind of in Southern Ventura, Northern Valley area of Southern California. So that went out to the public. And that same client actually is someone that we helped with a campaign that we put together called the Kind Campaign. And what we decided to do was we needed to help them create a better experience for pet owners, particularly in emergency situations. And so we developed a campaign where as soon as the pet owner pulls in, calls or texts and lets them know they've checked in, the technician that would come out to do triage will come out with the intention to do triage, but they're also bringing them a kind, like protein bar, a small bottle of water, and a little handout on what to expect. So it immediately lowers the volume, says, we're here to help you. We recognize this may be a longer wait than you're expecting. Here's some snacks, some sustenance, and here's how we triage patients. So that was the beginning of it. And then at the end, when they check out, again, they get another little card that thanks them, appreciates them choosing this particular hospital, thanks them for their patience and understanding in these unprecedented times, you know, that they appreciate any feedback they want to share, particularly understanding that this is a unique situation. And so it it bookends that visit with very positive elements, and it made an enormous difference. And I'll tell you the biggest difference they said is their front desk staff aren't crying every day.
Yeah.
Because the pet owners have a better understanding and are treating them more appropriately. And the fact that they don't have front desk team members crying and leaving every day in tears was really the goal.
Yeah. Well, I think that was an awesome program because I had known of that, and I think it's amazing that you guys did that. So
awesome. Well, another practice that we have in Florida, we helped them put together because they're at 24-hour ER only, and they're the only ER for like an hour, right, in any direction. So they are a very busy place to begin with. And a couple other, the smaller ERs, GP practices that had overnight care, closed the overnight care during COVID. Again, putting additional burden on this practice. We helped them develop a concierge program where from 2 p.m. in the afternoon till 10 p.m. at night, every day, there is a concierge on staff. And that concierge has 2 jobs. One is to make the people in the parking lot comfortable, and the other one is to make the team comfortable. And you're probably going, help the team, but these concierge made sure the staff were fed. They ordered food. They made sure the kitchen was stocked, because they also knew the team wasn't getting necessarily all the appropriate breaks, hydration, food, you know, and just time to breathe. So they were taking care of their own team as well as taking care of the team, you know, the pet owners on the outside, and they had snacks, beverages, and information that they were sharing on both ends. They were the liaison and the concierge, similar to what a hotel concierge would do. Yeah. They were making it happen, whatever was needed on behalf of the team and the pet owner. And it's worked out really well. They've continued that program 7 days a week, 2 to 10. They've got a concierge.
Wow. And they're still doing it to this day?
They are still doing it.
It's amazing. Are they letting clients in the building again?
They are not yet because, as you know, Florida has had a real continued resurgence of COVID. Euthanasias, they are allowed in, but right now they still do have curbside care only because COVID has continued to plague their team. In fact, just last month, they had 2 people out with COVID, again, asymptomatic. So they are testing regularly. And, if they're asymptomatic, they can obviously be spreading it without even knowing it. And so they have continued to remain curbside.
Yeah, it's understandable. And that makes, I mean, I think now people are so used to doing curbside that they're better prepared, but initially that communication is such a struggle when you have people outside versus inside. So
yeah, I mean, look, as a pet owner, if it was an emergency for my pet, I would want to be inside too. And because I can't, as long as the communication is timely, thorough, and, I have multiple ways to communicate with the practice, text, email, phone, video, as long as I feel like they're making a concerted effort to communicate with me in a way that's comfortable for me, I've learned to accept that as okay. And, it's not my preference, but I understand it.
I think you used the word timely, and that's something that I've talked to different veterinary team members about and, other managers. And I don't know that the understanding of timely is the same for them as it is for the client. And so I think that that's really huge, because if you communicate to an owner with a time frame or quickly about what the plan is, what's going to happen, then they're not in the dark. They are less likely to freak out on you. So I do think timely is essential. Doesn't guarantee you anything 100%, but it does make a difference.
But I think timely, the way I see it, and certainly the way we counsel our clients, is call them when you say you're going to call them.
Yes.
Even if it's 5 hours from now, even if you say tomorrow morning after rounds takes place from 7 to 8, shortly after rounds, you can expect a phone call, then make sure you call them between 8 and 9, so that it's a level of trust that you do what you say you're going to do. It's the open-ended that creates the fear and the panic.
Yep, absolutely. And I think sometimes I know team members will think, well, I don't know the information from the doctor yet. So they'll wait till they have all of the information instead of giving the client a partial update. And I think a partial update is better than no update at all. Even if they get—
I agree. Even if it's a quick text that says, Fluffy's doing well this morning. I just wanted to check in. I'm still gathering the remaining information from Dr. So-and-so. I'll be in touch again shortly. That's enough to usually, again, let the pet owner breathe.
Exactly. It helps them breathe and feel a little bit better for whatever it is that's wrong with the animal. So
it tells the pet owner that you're taking care of my pet.
Yeah.
And you are, but until you tell them at regular intervals, it's just scary.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good message. So hopefully for the veterinary professionals that watch this, they can remember little updates are so helpful to help you not get yelled at later by the client.
And it doesn't need to be by phone.
In fact,
most pet owners would prefer it not be by phone, because they're at work, they're in the middle of a meeting, they're in the middle of something. If I could glance down at my phone and see Melissa sent me a text that said she's going to get back with me soon, I can keep going with my meeting. I can, usually they're busy, but they're waiting for that communication. So, if it can be through an app or a text or some other means other than phone, it is typically preferred nowadays.
Yep, I agree. And I know a lot of hospitals do have texting capabilities, whether it's through a hospital cell phone or whether it's through an app that they use, Pet Desk, Leave, or there's a bunch of different ones. So
Whip or one of the apps they're using, you bet.
Exactly. So I think that's a really good message to help people remember that they can do that. What have you noticed that you feel is the biggest struggle that hospitals are kind of going through in this past probably 7 months after we went into 2021 and things started changing?
One of the biggest struggles is not going to be easily solved, and it's universal, and that's shortage of personnel. So what we've been trying to do, in addition to helping them recruit team members through various digital campaigns and other programs is really help recommend tools and technologies that will make them more efficient. So whether it is a VoIP phone system that has other capabilities, whether it is an app, whether it is other types of digital communication to lower the call volume and redirect some of those communications to other methods that frankly are preferable to clients. So we're trying to lessen the burden on the team, make it more convenient for the client, and recommend different tools and technologies that will help that, until they can, train, bring on, support the team in other ways. And I think, the concierge program was a good example of another way to support the team, because that person is also a liaison in addition to making sure everybody's informed and happy, or at least you're not starving and not dying of thirst where they are. So yeah, a lot of different ways to do that, but I still think that's the biggest challenge. And then, just continuing to communicate in various ways with the pet owner public and the referring veterinary community, because a lot of times, especially in emergency practice, really needs help from the referring community to educate their clients before sending them over. So many of them are just saying, go here, but not call first or expect a wait, or, give them 2 or 3 or 4 tips to help set that referral up for success.
So those would be the things that the referring hospitals can do, so just kind of give them the updates. Now, I know that each referring hospital may have different requirements or issues that they're experiencing. What do you see as like the most common ones? You kind of mentioned
the most common ones today, they want to know a referral is being sent. So whether it's filling out a referral form online, which don't get used often enough, where a primary care veterinarian can refer, fill out the online referral form, upload any lab work, upload any notes as to I'm sending this case because it's urgent, because, or, I've told them they're going to have a wait, or whatever information can be exchanged. I think it's really important that they send information and not, 20 pages of a medical record, just the pertinent information and the most recent diagnostics and suspected diagnosis, or, the most pertinent information to that specialty practice. If that specialty in emergency practice has a backdoor line or an RDVM referrals at email, use it, send it over. Also, just wanted you to know I sent over a case information in your portal. Thank you. If you need to talk to me, I'm in the office. So getting information to the specialty in emergency practice through their portal or their referral mechanism, I think is the most important. Second would be to ask the pet owner to either call or send a text if the practice accepts text communication, to say, I'm on my way. Is there anything I need to know? What are the time constraints? Here's what my veterinarian has told me to do. And, frankly, if it's an ear infection or a laceration or something like that, and the emergency or specialty practices is on overload, they're going to direct the client otherwise, because otherwise they're going to sit in the lobby or outside for hours. So again, just setting up expectations in a way that's going to be most beneficial and respectful of the pet owner's time as well.
Okay. And what, is there anything that you're able to facilitate with your business to help ease that transition between referring practices and specialty hospitals?
Yeah. Well, for our emergency and specialty hospitals, we try to encourage all of them to build in, to let us build in a digital portal for them on their website. Again, that digital communication is just so much more efficient. And there's certainly going to be times when a primary care practitioner really needs to talk with a specialist or emergency doc before the case comes over. So we don't want to discourage those communications, but we want to encourage streamlined communications where possible. And, we're also, as much happens on the digital end, we also know that print is not dead in our world. And we still, for our specialty and emergency practices, produce materials that not only help the primary care practitioner know what services are available where, but also that they can give to their clients upon making a referral to facilitate a smooth referral. Help them learn a little bit about the practice or the doctor before they get there, and establish them as a credible colleague or an extension of their practice. Maybe even learn something about the doctor or the practice that's going to set the pet owner at ease, knowing my veterinarian has sent me somewhere that has additional equipment or doctors that have some additional expertise in this particular area. It certainly reflects well on the primary care practitioner, but sets that client up in a way that gives them a head start to feel like they're in good hands with a credible, recommended and trusted resource for their pet. So I think facilitating the referral in that way is really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good to have that familiarity with where you're going. So because you're already scared. I mean, the clients are already uncomfortable. There's something wrong. They're really wrong that their normal doctor can't fix. So they're going to a different doctor. So I feel like there isn't.
By the same token, I will say some specialty and emergency hospitals aren't very good at telling the client after the visit or, as they're getting ready to check out, how they're going to then work with their primary care veterinarian moving forward. So, they're so often focused on the task at hand, which I get, dealing with the emergency or the consult to, take care of the diagnostics and the treatment, but then to be able to bookend that visit with saying, now here's how we're going to communicate with your primary care veterinarian. We're going to reach out to Dr. So-and-so with, a summary of what we did for Fluffy today. We're going to be contacting them and making sure they understand what our recommendations are and working with them to make sure the follow-up care is able to be handled smoothly and efficiently back at your regular vet's practice. So they sometimes forget that, and we slap their hands for that too, just because it's good for the pet owner to know that.
Yes, absolutely. I know that Orange County Emergency Pet Clinic is going to be they're getting a new software at some point, but they're also going to be getting, I feel like it's our vet
link. Yeah.
And like
now owned by IDEX.
And it's going to be some way of communicating to the referring hospitals that when the client checks in, it says, hey, your patient checked in just now or whatever. So I like that communication. I know that's what I'm coming to.
That's one of the portal programs that we like quite a bit. In fact, there's some very cool features that it has, and every specialty or emergency practice can customize it to share with their referring veterinarians at different points in time. One is they can send notification that, a client has checked in. One is they can send notification that a client has gone to surgery. They can send notification that a patient's been discharged from the hospital. They can send notification that new lab work or the soap note has been loaded, because we know what happens, especially, when a pet owner is referred to a specialist. After that consult with the specialist, the pet owner leaves, gets in the car and calls their vet, right? Well, here's what the surgeon said. Well, honestly, the cool thing is, if they get their vet on the phone, the vet can pull up the record, go into the portal, see the soap note, and they can go, well, no, that's not exactly what was recommended because you didn't hear it right. Or, yes, I see that and I agree. I think that's the best course of treatment. Or let me call so-and-so and get a little bit more information for you. So they're not caught off guard. They have access to all of that information. And it's also the same portal where we recommend the referring veterinarian put in all the referral information. So it's communication on both ends. It's open transparency. And really, look, if it's 11 o'clock at night and that primary care practitioner wants to log in and see what happened to their patient that they sent to the ER at 6 o'clock at night, it's all there.
Yeah. And honestly, there are some vets who will do that.
Yes. And this way they don't have to call. They can simply at the touch of a button with an internet connection, check on their patient.
Well, I'm glad that you have worked with that program too, because I hadn't really heard of it and she told me about it and I thought, well, that's a great concept. So I'm glad that you have some experience.
Yeah, it is. It's, it was built by two guys that were big into the animal health data business. And it was such a popular program. Lots of specialty and emergency practices adopted it that IDEXX bought it. So they've incorporated it into Cornerstone and Neo and their PIMS programs, but it's available to any practice to use regardless of their software. And it's simply a link that we place on the website with a code that our VetLink gives us. We put it on our clients' websites, and any primary care practitioner can set up an account and send information through it to the referral hospital.
That's awesome. I'm glad we plugged them for a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great service. So I'm happy to tout things that I think make our team's lives better and makes it, more efficient to care for the patients.
Yeah, much better communication, I think. And is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with, that just words of advice that hospitals can do to improve communication, or COVID struggles, or anything that you can think of that you would feel would be beneficial?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you asking that. I think at the end of the day, it is very, very important, whatever type of practice you are, whatever type of clientele you have, that you have a very well-defined brand. And what I mean by that is really understand and decide who you are, what you wish to be known for, and really have a focus, because we know we can't be all things to all people, because goodness knows not every pet owner is an ideal client, right? So it's important to be able to not only differentiate yourself from a recruitment perspective, but from a clientele perspective. If we are the low-cost leader and we're a higher volume practice, nothing wrong with that. Let's target our messaging and our, creative to that audience. If we are more of a thorough diagnostics and more sophisticated practice, let's not be sending that message out to the lower income neighborhoods. I mean, let's be very, very clear on who we are, who we want to serve, and focus our efforts both digitally and traditionally on those messages, making sure everybody on your team can talk about who you are in the same way. And, particularly because, we're all going to have shoppers. What's it cost for a dental? What's it cost for a spay neuter? Well, you can answer that, but it's a better answer if you're able to differentiate why you're the practice to be able to do it, because prices are going to vary across the board. So you want to be able to say, and here's what we focus on, or here's why we do it this way, and really infuse elements of your brand into the answer, so they have a better understanding and the initial development of that trust and that relationship that we're building, because we don't really just want that spay or neuter. We want that client for the lifetime value to serve them from this opening door point all the way through. So taking the time to develop that brand, make sure the whole team understands it in the same way, and that there's some very key messages that you want to impart each and every time in all of your messaging to make sure that message is getting through. So it's not just about a click or an engagement or an appointment. It's about building a brand for some longevity, for some legacy, because we also know we all probably have enough business today. It's not just about getting people to walk through the door. It's really about getting people to, once they do walk through your door, listen, want to learn, be compliant, see you as the best resource instead of Dr. Google. There's so many more reasons to engage, and it's not just about getting people to walk through your door.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. And I think that everyone today is like, well, we're so too busy to care, but we may not be busy a year from now. And so we need to have these types of things to keep us going.
And here's the other thing, even if you're hesitant to take on new clients or many new clients, it's a whole lot easier, more efficient, and frankly, better for the pet if you get more business from your current clients, if there's greater compliance, if they stay on flea and tick and heartworm year round, as opposed to just the summer, if they book that, comprehensive oral health exam and treatment and cleaning annually versus every 3 years. I mean, there are just so many things that you can do more for those patients without taking on new ones, that your revenue can still grow, and you can, do more for those pets, providing them with an opportunity to stay healthier longer. That doesn't involve any new clients.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. So thank you so much for speaking with me, Robin. I really appreciate you taking time out of your evening to share with our audience.
I am flattered that you asked, and always happy to talk marketing, talk pet care.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I've never been a clinical professional. I came to vet med from the business side of things. So, I've learned a lot of the clinical over my 20 years in the field, but, at the end of the day, I'm a pet owner and I learn something new every day. And I want to make sure that our client practices are passing along that information, whether it's to clients or, primary care practitioners, to reach people like us to help better help our pets.
Absolutely. So I will put in my description for this talk, your website and all of that. So everyone can research you and look up your information and how they can maybe use your services.
Well,
So
fabulous. We're happy to help. We do have a monthly blog newsletter that we put out called Marketecture Digest that anybody could subscribe to on our website. It is free. And we try and get it out monthly. I will be honest and let you know that this past month it didn't go out due to the overwhelm. But we're back on schedule for November. So I look forward to hopefully seeing some new subscribers.
Yeah, wonderful.
Well, have a wonderful night, Melissa. Thank you so much.
Did it freeze it?
It did. You froze.
Well, I hit stop recording. I don't know what happened.
Well, you froze right at the end.
Well, shoot. I think it's going to hang up. Can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay, so weird.
Your face is frozen, but the audio never changed. And at least you froze with a nice face.
Oh, good. Yeah, I froze it. I don't know if it's still recording, so we'll see.
Okay.
For joining me, Robin. I appreciate your time. I'm just going to figure out how to end the meeting with my crazy frozen screen that's going on right now. And I'm plugged into the Ethernet cable. It still wants to have issues. So.
Technology. Thank you very much. When it works.
Yeah, exactly. So
well, I look forward to learning when this goes live so that we can push it out as well.
Yeah, awesome. And then I will send you my YouTube channel link because I don't think I sent that to you.
Fabulous.
I'll send that to you.
Great.
All right. Excellent.
Take care, Melissa. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.